The heavy oak door of apartment 3B rattled in its frame as a fist pounded on it from the other side. Bang, bang, bang. The sound echoed through the small, cluttered living room like the drums of war. I groaned, pulling the duvet over my head. It was Saturday morning. Saturday mornings were sacred. They were for sleeping in, for ignoring responsibilities, and for pretending that my bank account wasn't currently showing a balance of $12.45. Sophie! A deep, impatient voice boomed through the wood. I know you're in there. I can hear you breathing. I sighed, kicking off the covers. It was him, the landlord, the reaper, or as his birth certificate probably said, Ryan Miller. I'm not home, I shouted back, my voice cracked with sleep. If you're not home, then who am I talking to? A ghost with a rent payment problem, Ryan retorted. Open up, Sophie. It's the 5th of the month. You're 5 days late. Again. I scrambled out of bed, grabbing a silk robe to cover my ratty pajamas. I looked around the apartment. It was a disaster zone. Fabric swatches, sketchbooks, and half-finished coffee cups littered every surface. My freelance graphic design career was booming in creativity, but lagging in cash flow. I walked to the door and unlocked it, putting on my best charming tenant smile. I swung the door open. Ryan stood there. He looked like he had just stepped out of a catalog for hot men who hate fun. He was wearing a faded gray t-shirt that clung to his broad chest, worn-out jeans, and a tool belt slung low on his hips. His dark hair was messy, and his jaw was set in a permanent scowl. He held a clipboard in one hand and a wrench in the other. Good morning, Ryan, I chirped, leaning against the doorframe. Lovely weather we're having, isn't it? The sun is shining, the birds are singing. The rent is due. He cut me off, stepping into my apartment without an invitation. He looked around with disdain. And your apartment looks like a bomb went off in a craft store. It's called creative chaos, I corrected him, closing the door. And about the rent, I have a proposition. Ryan stopped in the middle of the living room. He turned to look at me, crossing his arms over his chest. His biceps flexed. It was unfair that someone so grumpy could be so physically perfect. No, he said flatly. You haven't even heard it yet. I don't need to hear it. Is it cash? Is it a check? If the answer is no, then I'm not interested. It's better than cash, I said, rushing to the kitchen counter. I picked up a Tupperware container. It's my grandmother's famous apple pie, freshly baked, still warm. I held it out to him like an offering to an angry god. Ryan stared at the pie. Then he stared at me. His expression didn't change. Sophie, he said, his voice dangerously calm. I don't eat sugar, and I don't accept baked goods as currency. Do you think the bank accepts cookies when I pay the mortgage on this building? Maybe they should, I muttered, putting the pie down. They'd be happier. I need the money, Ryan said, stepping closer. This is a business, not a charity. You are 3 months behind. Do you know how much maintenance this building needs? The boiler is older than my father. The roof leaks every time it rains. I can't fix things with apple pie. I looked at him. I knew he was right. I knew he was struggling too. Despite owning the building, Ryan lived in the basement apartment and did all the repairs himself. He drove a truck that sounded like a dying dinosaur. Rumor had it his family lost everything years ago, and this building was all he had left. I know, Ryan, I sighed, dropping the act. I'm sorry. My client, they promised to pay me on Monday. It's a big project, a rebrand for a tech startup. Once the check clears, I can pay you everything, including the late fees. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, frustration radiating off him. He looked at the peeling paint on my ceiling, then back at me. His eyes, usually cold and hard, softened just a fraction. Monday, he repeated. Monday, I promised. Cross my heart. He stared at me for a long moment. I held my breath. Fine, he grunted. Monday, noon. If the money isn't in my hand, I'm starting the eviction process. I mean it this time, Sophie. No more excuses. Thank you, I beamed, reaching out to hug him. He stepped back quickly, holding up the wrench like a shield. Don't touch me. I'm covered in grease. Right, sorry. He turned to leave. And clean this place up. It's a fire hazard. Aye, aye, Captain. He walked out, slamming the door behind him. The vibration knocked a picture frame off the wall. It fell with a loud crash, glass shattering everywhere. Great, I whispered. Just great. I spent the rest of the weekend working like a maniac. I finalized the logo designs, sent invoices, and prayed to every deity I could think of that the client would pay on time. By Sunday night, I was exhausted. I decided to take a long, hot bath to relax. I filled the tub with bubbles, lit a candle, and sank into the water. This is the life, I murmured, closing my eyes. Suddenly, a strange noise interrupted my peace. Gurgle, hiss, clank. It sounded like the pipes were arguing. I opened my eyes. The water in the tub was vibrating. Then, with a sound like a gunshot, the pipe under the sink burst. Boom! Water exploded into the room. It sprayed everywhere, on the mirror, on the floor, on me. It was freezing cold. Ah! I screamed, jumping out of the tub. I slipped on the wet tile and fell hard on my hip. Water was gushing out, flooding the bathroom at an alarming rate. I scrambled to my feet, grabbing towels, throwing them on the floor. It was useless. The water was rising. Help! I shouted. Ryan, Ryan! I ran out of the bathroom, dripping wet, wearing nothing but a towel. I grabbed my phone and dialed his number. He picked up on the first ring. What? He barked. Emergency! I yelled. My bathroom is exploding. There's water everywhere. It's going to flood the apartment below. I'm coming, he said, and hung up. 30 seconds later, my front door flew open. Ryan stood there. He was wearing his usual uniform gray t-shirt, jeans, tool belt. He looked like he was ready for battle. Where is it? He demanded. Bathroom, I pointed. He ran past me. I followed him, splashing through the puddle that was now seeping into the living room. Ryan took one look at the geyser under the sink and swore loudly. The main valve, he shouted over the noise of the water. It's rusted shut. I need the big wrench. He reached for his tool belt, but his hands were slippery with water. The wrench fell into the puddle with a splash. Damn it! He dropped to his knees, crawling under the sink. The water sprayed directly into his face, soaking his shirt instantly. It clung to his chest, outlining every muscle. Sophie, he yelled from under the cabinet. I need you to hold the flashlight. I can't see anything. Okay? I grabbed the flashlight from his tool bag and knelt beside him. Shine it to the left, he instructed, gritting his teeth as he wrestled with the pipe. More left. There. I leaned in closer, trying to get a better angle. My towel slipped a little. I pulled it up with one hand, holding the light with the other. It's stripped, Ryan growled. I have to cut the water to the whole building. No, I cried. Mrs. Higgins on the first floor will kill us. She's baking cookies. It's either Mrs. Higgins's cookies or your floor collapsing, Ryan snapped. He turned his head to look at me. His face was inches from mine. Water dripped from his nose. His eyelashes were wet and spiked. His eyes were the color of the stormy sea. For a second, the chaos faded. The noise of the water became background static. I was acutely aware of how close we were, of the heat radiating from his body in the freezing water, of the way his wet shirt became translucent. Sophie, he said, his voice dropping an octave. Move the light. You're blinding me. Oh, sorry. I shifted the beam. Hold this, he ordered, handing me a piece of pipe. Tight. Don't let go. I grabbed the cold metal with both hands. Ryan used his wrench to clamp down on the valve. He strained his muscles, bulging veins popping in his neck. Come on, he grunted. Turn, you piece of junk. With a loud screech of metal on metal, the valve turned. The spray of water stopped instantly. Silence descended on the bathroom, broken only by our heavy breathing and the drip, drip, drip of residual water. Ryan slumped back against the cabinet, wiping water from his eyes. He looked exhausted and drenched and incredibly annoyingly handsome. "Fixed," he breathed. "You did it," I whispered, awe in my voice. He looked at me. He looked at my wet hair plastered to my skull. He looked at the towel clinging to my body. His gaze lingered on my bare shoulders, then dropped lower. He swallowed hard. "You're wet," he stated the obvious. "So are you," I countered. He started to stand up, but his foot slipped on the wet tile. He stumbled forward. I reached out to catch him. He crashed into me. We both went down. Ryan landed on top of me. His heavy body pressed me into the soaked bath mat. His chest was hard against mine. His legs tangled with my bare legs. I gasped. He froze. He braced his hands on either side of my head, holding his weight off me, but barely. Our faces were so close, our noses brushed. I could feel his heart pounding against my chest. Or maybe it was mine. "Are you okay?" he whispered, his voice rough. I think so," I stammered. He didn't move. He didn't get up. He just stared at me, his eyes dark and intense. The air between us crackled with electricity. It was hotter than the water had been cold. "Ryan," I breathed. He leaned down, just a fraction of an inch. His gaze dropped to my lips. "Sophie," he murmured, "you are the most troublesome tenant I have ever had." "Is that a compliment?" I asked breathlessly. "It's a warning," he said. But he didn't pull away. The silence in the bathroom was heavy, filled only with the sound of our ragged breathing and the occasional drip of water from the faucet. Ryan hovered above me, his body a solid weight of heat and muscle pressing me into the soggy bath mat. His eyes, usually so cold and guarded, were now dark whirlpools swirling with something I couldn't quite name. Frustration, anger, or something else entirely. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I knew I should push him off. I knew I should make a joke, deflect the tension with my usual sarcasm. But my hands seemed to have a mind of their own, resting lightly on his wet t-shirt, feeling the rapid beat of his heart beneath my fingertips. "You're heavy," I whispered, the words coming out breathless and shaky. Ryan blinked as if waking from a trance. He pushed himself up, his muscles straining as he levered his weight off me. He sat back on his heels, running a hand through his dripping hair. Water droplets flew from the strands, landing on my bare arm, like cold kisses. "Sorry," he muttered, not looking at me. "Slipped." I sat up, clutching my towel tighter around me. "It's fine. Thanks for fixing the pipe. Again." Ryan stood up, offering me a hand. I took it. His grip was firm, calloused, and surprisingly gentle. He pulled me to my feet, but his hand lingered in mine for a second longer than necessary before he let go. "The bathroom is ruined," he stated, looking around at the waterlogged floor and the peeling wallpaper. "The floorboards are soaked. It's going to rot if we don't dry it out properly." "I have towels," I offered weakly. "Towels won't fix this, Sophie," he sighed, the grumpy landlord persona sliding back into place like armor. "You can't stay here. The mold will set in within 24 hours. "What?" Panic flared in my chest. "Where am I supposed to go? I can't afford a hotel. I barely have enough for rent." Ryan looked at me. He looked at the disaster zone that was my apartment. He ran a hand over his face, clearly fighting an internal battle. "Fine," he grunted. "Pack a bag." "Pack a bag? Why?" "Because I'm not letting a tenant get sick from mold poisoning. It's a liability. You can stay in the spare room." I stared at him. "The spare room in your apartment." "Do you have a better idea?" he challenged, crossing his arms. I didn't. My friends all lived in shoebox studios with no couches, and my parents were in Florida. "Okay," I said quietly. "Thank you, Ryan." "Don't thank me yet," he warned. My apartment has rules. No loud music, no glitter, and absolutely no baking after 10 p.m. I need my sleep. Yes, sir. I saluted mockingly, trying to lighten the mood. He rolled his eyes and walked out of the bathroom. I'll give you 10 minutes. Don't make me wait. 10 minutes later, I was standing in Ryan's living room, holding a duffel bag and my laptop. His apartment was surprising. I expected it to be dark and cavernous like a bat cave. Instead, it was minimalist and painfully neat. Everything had a place. The books on the shelves were organized by color. The kitchen counters were gleaming white, devoid of any clutter. It was the complete opposite of my chaotic nest. This is, I started. Clean, he finished. Keep it that way. He pointed to a door down the hall. That's the guest room. The bathroom is across the hall. I leave for work at 6 a.m. Don't wake me up when you're working on your whatever it is you do all night. Graphic design, I reminded him. And I'm nocturnal. It's part of the creative process. Well, be nocturnal quietly, he said, walking into the kitchen. He opened the fridge and took out a bottle of water. Hungry. My stomach growled on cue. I hadn't eaten since lunch. Starving, I admitted. Ryan sighed. He pulled out eggs, spinach, and whole wheat bread. He started cooking with efficient practice movements. No wasted motion. He cracked eggs with one hand, flipped them perfectly. It was mesmerizing. He slid a plate in front of me at the kitchen island. Eat. You cook? I asked, taking a bite. It was delicious. Simple but perfectly seasoned. I eat for fuel, he said, sitting opposite me with his own plate. I don't do fancy. I do healthy. It's good, I said. Thank you. We ate in silence. It wasn't an uncomfortable silence exactly. It was more like a truce, two enemies sharing a meal on the battlefield. So, I said, wiping my mouth. About the rent? Ryan put his fork down. We already discussed this. Monday. I know, but since I'm staying here, maybe we could work out a deal. He narrowed his eyes. What kind of deal? I can help around the house, I offered. I can clean, I can organize, I can bake you sugar-free muffins. I don't need a maid, Sophie. I need cash. But you're busy, I argued. You work all day on the building. Who does your laundry? Who waters your plants? I looked at a sad, wilting fern in the corner. That plant is screaming for help, Ryan. He looked at the fern. He looked at me. Fine, he conceded. You do the laundry, you water the plants, and you keep the kitchen clean. I'll deduct $50 a week from your debt. $100, I countered. $75, take it or leave it. Deal. I smiled, extending my hand. He looked at my hand, then shook it. His grip was warm. Deal. Now go to bed. I have to fix the roof tomorrow. I went to the guest room. It was sparse but comfortable. The sheets smelled like him, clean soap and masculinity. I curled up, feeling strangely safe in the lion's den. The next morning I woke up to a strange sound. Thud, hiss, thud, hiss. I crept out of bed and peeked into the living room. Ryan was working out. He had pushed the coffee table aside and was doing push-ups. He was shirtless. I froze in the doorway, my mouth going dry. His back muscles rippled with every movement. Sweat glistened on his skin. He moved with a power and control that was terrifyingly attractive. He switched to sit-ups, his abs contracting like steel bands. 1, 2, 3. I knew I should look away. I knew I should go back to my room. But I couldn't move. It was like watching a nature documentary about a dangerous predator in its natural habitat. He finished his set and stood up, grabbing a towel to wipe his face. He turned and saw me. I squeaked. Ryan froze the towel halfway to his face. He looked at me, his eyes widening slightly. I realized I was wearing my oversized t-shirt with a cartoon cat on it, and my hair was probably a bird's nest. "Enjoying the show?" he asked, his voice low and raspy. I... I was just getting water." I lied, my face burning. He smirked, a genuine teasing smirk that transformed his face. "Water is in the kitchen, unless you're lost." "Right, kitchen." I scuttled past him, trying not to stare at his chest. I failed. He smelled like sweat and hard work, and it was intoxicating. I grabbed a glass of water and chugged it. "Sophie," he said from the living room. "Yeah." "You're drooling." I choked on the water. "I am not." He chuckled. "Relax. I'm going to shower. Then we're going to fix your bathroom. Put on some work clothes. You're helping." Helping? I thought I was paying rent with laundry. "You broke it, you fix it," he called out, walking down the hall. "That's the rule." I groaned. But as I listened to the shower turn on, I couldn't help but smile. Maybe living with the grumpy landlord wasn't going to be so bad after all. An hour later, we were in my ruined apartment. Ryan was tearing up the wet floorboards with a crowbar. I was bagging up the debris. It was hot, dirty work. "You're doing it wrong," Ryan said, taking the bag from me. "You have to double bag the wet stuff or it leaks." "Sorry I didn't major in demolition," I retorted. "Maybe you should have. It pays better than art." "Hey, my art pays just fine. When clients pay me." We worked side by side. He taught me how to use a pry bar. He showed me how to check for mold. He was patient in his own gruff way. "Pass me the hammer," he said, holding out a hand. I reached for it, but my hand slipped on a slick piece of flooring. I fell forward. Ryan caught me, his arm wrapped around my waist, hauling me up before I hit the ground. I slammed into his chest. Dust flew up around us. "Careful," he murmured, his face close to mine. "You're a hazard, Sophie." "I'm clumsy," I corrected, breathless. He looked down at me. There was a smudge of dirt on my cheek. He reached out and wiped it away with his thumb. The gesture was intimate, tender. "You missed a spot?" he whispered. My heart did that flip-flop thing again. "Ryan?" "Yeah." "Are we having a moment?" He laughed softly. "I think we are." He leaned in. I closed my eyes. Knock, knock, knock. The front door opened. "Ryan, are you in here? The doorman said you were playing handyman." We sprang apart. Standing in the doorway was a woman. She was tall, blonde, and dressed in a white suit that cost more than my entire existence. She looked like an ice queen. Perfect. Cold. Expensive. She looked at the mess. She looked at me, covered in dust. Then she looked at Ryan. "Vanessa," Ryan said, his voice dropping to absolute zero. "Hello, darling?" She smiled, stepping over a pile of rotten wood. "I see you're still playing in the dirt. Cute." She looked at me with disdain. "And who is this, the maid?" "This is Sophie," Ryan said, stepping in front of me, shielding me. "She's a tenant and a friend." "A friend," Vanessa laughed. "Since when do you have friends, Ryan?" "You only have employees and debts." She walked up to him, placing a manicured hand on his dusty chest. "I'm here for the papers, Ryan, the divorce settlement. I want my share of the building. Now." I stared at her. Divorce? Ryan was married. Ryan knocked her hand away. "You get nothing, Vanessa. You left when I had nothing. You don't get to come back now that I'm rebuilding." "We'll see what the judge says," she hissed. "My lawyers found a loophole. Half of this building is mine, which means—" She turned to me, her eyes glittering with malice. "Half of this apartment is mine, and I'm evicting you. Get out." I looked at Ryan. He was shaking with rage. His hands were clenched into fists. "She stays," he growled. "Not for long," Vanessa smirked. "Tick-tock, Ryan. Sell the building, give me my money, or I'll burn your little empire to the ground." She turned and walked out, leaving the scent of expensive perfume and poison in the air. Ryan stood there staring at the empty doorway. He looked broken. "Ryan," I whispered, reaching out to touch his arm. He flinched away. "Don't," he said harshly. "Just leave me alone." He stormed out, leaving me standing in the wreckage of my apartment. The moment was over. The reality was back, and the storm was just beginning. The days following Vanessa's dramatic entrance were tense, to say the least. Ryan retreated into himself, becoming a fortress of solitude and grumpiness. He worked on the building from dawn until dusk, hammering and drilling as if he could fix his life with sheer physical force. I barely saw him, except for brief encounters in the kitchen where he would grunt a hello and grab an apple before disappearing again. Living in his apartment felt different now. Before it was a quirky arrangement. Now it felt like I was trespassing in a war zone. I tried to be helpful. I did his laundry, which consisted mostly of black t-shirts and jeans. I watered his sad fern, which I named Fernando. I even baked him healthy, sugar-free muffins, which he ate without complaint, but also without praise. "He's just stressed," I told Fernando the fern one morning. "His ex-wife is trying to steal his building. It's understandable." Fernando didn't reply, but his leaves looked a little perkier, so I took that as agreement. On Thursday, I was in the living room working on a logo design when Ryan walked in. He looked exhausted. There were dark circles under his eyes, and his shoulders slumped. He held a thick envelope in his hand. "Legal papers," I guessed. "Summons," he corrected, tossing the envelope onto the coffee table. "She's suing for full ownership. She claims I mismanaged the property." "That's ridiculous. You fix everything yourself." "Exactly. She says I'm cutting corners, endangering tenants." He looked at me. "She's using the burst pipe in your apartment as evidence of negligence." I gasped. "But that was an accident, old pipes break." "Doesn't matter. To a judge it looks like I'm a slumlord." He sank onto the couch, putting his head in his hands. "I'm going to lose the building, Sophie. It's the only thing I have left of my grandfather's legacy." I looked at him. The strong, invincible landlord looked defeated. My heart ached for him. "You won't lose it," I said firmly, closing my laptop. "We'll fight her. We—" He looked up, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "Yes, I'm a tenant. I can testify that you're a great landlord. A grumpy one, sure, but diligent. You fixed my pipe in the middle of the night. You let me stay here rent-free." "That might not help my case," he muttered. "Staying with a tenant. It looks unprofessional." "Then we make it look professional," I said. "Or we make it look personal." "What do you mean? Vanessa wants to paint you as a lonely, incompetent loser, right? So prove her wrong. Show the world you're stable, happy, moved on." Ryan stared at me. "You want me to pretend to be happy?" "I want you to bring a date to the foundation gala on Saturday," I said. "She'll be there, right, flaunting her money." "She's on the board," he confirmed. "Exactly. So you show up with a stunning woman on your arm, someone who adores you, someone who makes you look like the catch of the century." "And where am I going to find a woman like that in 2 days?" he asked skeptically. I smiled, flipping my hair. "You're looking at her." Ryan blinked. "You. Me. I can clean up nice, Ryan. I have a dress I've been saving for a special occasion. And I can act. I convinced my college professor to give me an extension on my thesis by crying on cue." "You want to fake date me? I want to save your building," I corrected. "And maybe get free champagne and hors d'oeuvres. It's a win-win." Ryan looked at me for a long time. He studied my face as if searching for a trap. Then slowly, a corner of his mouth lifted. "You're crazy," he said. "I'm creative," I countered. "Do we have a deal? This counts as next month's rent." He laughed, a real rusty laugh. "Fine, deal. But if you trip in your heels and spill wine on a donor, I'm doubling your rent." Deal. Saturday night arrived. I spent 3 hours getting ready. I curled my hair, did my makeup with meticulous care, and slipped into the dress. It was a vintage emerald green silk gown I had found at a thrift store and altered myself. It was backless with a slit up to my thigh. I put on my highest heels and stepped out of the bedroom. Ryan was waiting in the living room. He was wearing a tuxedo, a real fitted tuxedo that made his shoulders look impossibly wide and his waist trim. He was adjusting his cufflinks. He looked up when he heard me. His hands froze. His jaw literally dropped. "Wow," he breathed. I did a little twirl. "Do I pass inspection, landlord?" He walked towards me, his eyes dark and hungry. He stopped inches away, his gaze sweeping over me like a physical touch. "You look dangerous," he murmured. "And expensive." "Good, that's the vibe we're going for. The I am worth more than your ex-wife vibe." He chuckled, offering me his arm. "Shall we go, darling?" "We shall, honey." The gala was held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It was grand, opulent, and filled with the city's elite. Vanessa was there, of course. She was holding court near the bar, wearing a red dress that screamed, "Look at me." She was laughing loudly with a group of older men. When we walked in, heads turned. Ryan looked powerful and confident. I clung to his arm, beaming up at him as if he hung the moon. "Showtime," I whispered. We made our way through the crowd. People stopped us to say hello. Ryan introduced me as his girlfriend Sophie, not a tenant, not a charity case, his girlfriend. "She's lovely, Ryan," an older woman cooed. "Where did you find her?" "She found me," Ryan said, looking at me with a warmth that felt almost real. "She burst into my life and refused to leave." "He means I'm persistent." I laughed, squeezing his arm. We finally reached Vanessa. She saw us coming, and her smile faltered. Her eyes narrowed as she took in my dress, my hand on Ryan's arm, the way he leaned into me. "Ryan," she said coldly. "And Sophie, was it? The maid?" "The girlfriend," I corrected sweetly. "And actually, I'm a graphic designer. I just landed a huge contract with TechCorp, but cleaning is a hobby. Keeps me grounded." Vanessa scoffed. "Girlfriend, please. Ryan doesn't do relationships. He's married to his work." "People change, Vanessa," Ryan said, his voice steady. "Especially when they find someone worth changing for." He put his arm around my waist, pulling me flush against his side. His hand was warm on the bare skin of my back. "Sophie has been my rock," he continued. "She's helping me renovate the building. We have big plans, a rooftop garden, a community space. It's going to be incredible." "Renovate?" Vanessa laughed sharply. "With what money you're broke, Ryan." "Not anymore," a voice boomed from behind us. We turned. It was Mr. Sterling, Ryan's uncle, a powerful investor. "Uncle Marcus?" Ryan nodded. "I heard your pitch, nephew," Marcus said, looking impressed. "A rooftop garden, sustainable living. That's exactly what the market wants right now. I'm willing to invest $5 million to start." Ryan's eyes widened. "Really? Really? On one condition. You keep this one." He pointed to me. "She's got fire. You need fire." "I intend to." Ryan smiled, tightening his hold on me. Vanessa turned purple. "This is absurd. He's lying. She's a nobody. She's the future Mrs. Miller, if I have anything to say about it." Marcus winked at me. I blushed. That wasn't part of the script, but Ryan didn't correct him. "Excuse us," Ryan said to Vanessa. "We're going to dance." He led me to the dance floor. The orchestra was playing a slow waltz. "You did it," I whispered as we swayed. "You got the investment. You saved the building." "We did it," he corrected. "You were amazing back there. Cleaning is a hobby, genius." "I try." He looked down at me. The playfulness faded from his eyes, replaced by that intense, stormy look I was starting to crave. "Sophie," he said. "Yeah. When I said you were worth changing for, I wasn't acting." My breath hitched. "Ryan. And when I said I wanted to keep you, I wasn't acting then either." He leaned down. His forehead rested against mine. We were in the middle of a crowded ballroom, but it felt like we were the only two people in the world. "I don't want this to be fake," he whispered. "I don't want you to be my pretend girlfriend. I want you to be real." "I am real," I said, my voice trembling. "I'm right here." "Then kiss me," he challenged. "For real. Not for Vanessa. Not for the investors. For us." I reached up, wrapping my arms around his neck. "Okay," I breathed. I kissed him. It started slow, tentative. A question asked and answered, but then it deepened. His arms crushed me against him. His mouth devoured mine. It was passion and relief and pent-up desire all exploding at once. It tasted of champagne and victory. When we pulled apart, the room was spinning. Or maybe it was just me. "Let's go home," Ryan growled in my ear. "Your home?" I asked. "Our home," he corrected. We left the gala, leaving Vanessa fuming in her red dress. We didn't care. We had won. Back at the apartment, the tension was palpable. Ryan unlocked the door and pulled me inside. He didn't turn on the lights. The city glow filtered through the windows. He pinned me against the door. "You have no idea," he murmured, kissing my neck, "how hard it was not to touch you all night." "You touched me plenty," I gasped, arching into him. "Not like I wanted to," he said, his hands roaming my body, learning every curve through the silk dress. "I wanted to strip this dress off you in the middle of the dance floor." "Well," I reached for his bow tie, undoing it. "We're not on the dance floor anymore." He groaned and picked me up, carrying me to the bedroom. Not the guest room, his room. He laid me on the bed. He loomed over me, dark and dangerous, and mine. "Sophie," he said, his voice rough, "are you sure I'm messy? I'm broke. I come with a crazy ex-wife and a crumbling building." "I like messy." I pulled him down by his lapels. "And I'm good at fixing things. Remember?" "I remember." He kissed me deeply. "You fixed me." We made love in the dark with the sounds of the city below us. It was frantic and tender, messy and perfect. It was the sealing of a deal that had nothing to do with rent and everything to do with hearts. Afterward, we lay tangled in the sheets. Ryan traced patterns on my back. "So," he said, "about the rent." "Yeah," I asked sleepily. "I'm raising it." I shot up. "What?" "I'm raising it," he smirked, "to a lifetime contract. The price is, you have to wake up next to me every morning and make me coffee." I laughed, hitting him with a pillow. "You make the coffee, I make the muffins." "Deal." He pulled me back down and kissed me. "I love you, Sophie." "I love you too, landlord." Life was messy. Pipes burst, roofs leaked, ex-wives caused drama. But as long as I had Ryan and he had me, we could fix anything, even a broken heart. The morning after the gala felt like waking up in a different universe. A universe where birds chirped in harmony, the coffee tasted like ambrosia, and Ryan Miller, the grumpiest man in New York, was whistling in the kitchen. I stretched my body, aching in the best possible way, and wrapped myself in Ryan's robe. It smelled of him, a scent that was quickly becoming my favorite thing in the world. I padded into the kitchen. Ryan was at the stove flipping pancakes. He was shirtless, wearing only low-slung sweatpants. The morning sun highlighted the scars on his back and the definition of his arms. "Good morning," he said, turning to grin at me. It was a blinding, dimpled grin that should have come with a warning label. "Good morning," I mumbled, leaning against the counter to admire the view. You whistle. Only when I've secured a multi-million-dollar investment and slept with the woman of my dreams. He winked. I blushed. You're cheesy. I'm happy, he corrected, sliding a stack of pancakes onto a plate. Eat up, we have a busy day. The contractors are coming at 10 to start on the roof. We ate breakfast together, his leg pressed against mine under the table. It felt domestic, permanent. But happiness, as I was learning, often comes with a side of chaos. At noon the doorbell rang. Must be the contractors, Ryan said, wiping his hands on a towel. I'll get it. He opened the door. It wasn't the contractors, it was Vanessa. And she wasn't alone. She was flanked by two men in suits who looked like they charged by the hour for being unpleasant. Lawyers. Vanessa, Ryan's smile vanished instantly. What are you doing here? Serving you, she said, thrusting a thick envelope into his chest. You thought you won last night. You thought prancing around with your little maid would save you. She stepped into the apartment, her heels clicking ominously on the hardwood floor. She looked around, her nose wrinkled in distaste. My lawyers found something interesting, Ryan. A clause in your grandfather's will. The building can only remain in the family if the owner is of sound moral character. I am of sound moral character, Ryan growled. Are you? She pointed a finger at me. Cohabiting with a tenant. Accepting favors in lieu of rent. It sounds like exploitation to me, and to a judge. I gasped. That's not true. We're dating. Are you? Vanessa sneered. Or is that just what he told you to say? Did he promise to forgive your debt if you played the part? She turned back to Ryan. I'm filing for an emergency injunction. I'm taking control of the building, Ryan. Today, until the court decides if you're fit to manage it. You can't do that, Ryan said, his voice tight. Watch me. She smiled cruelly. These gentlemen are here to assess the property value and to serve eviction notices to all tenants who are behind on rent. She looked directly at me, starting with 3B. Ryan stepped in front of me. You are not evicting her. I am the co-owner now, darling, or I will be by Monday. Pack your bags, sweetie. The party is over. She motioned to the lawyers. They started walking around the apartment, taking notes, taking photos, violating our sanctuary. Ryan stood there, his fists clenched, his breathing ragged. He looked like a trapped animal. Ryan, I whispered, touching his arm. It's okay. I can leave. I can go to a friend's house. No, he said, his voice low and dangerous. You stay. He turned to Vanessa. Get out. Make me, she challenged. I said get out, Ryan roared. He grabbed a vase from the table and threw it against the wall. It shattered into 1,000 pieces. The lawyers jumped. Vanessa flinched, but she held her ground. Violence, she noted calmly. Add that to the file. Unstable temperament. She turned and walked to the door. I'll see you in court, Ryan. Tuesday morning. Bring your checkbook. She left. The lawyers followed. Silence descended on the apartment, a heavy, suffocating silence. Ryan stood in the middle of the room staring at the broken vase. He was shaking. Ryan. I approached him slowly. I ruined it, he whispered. I lost control. She's going to use that against me. It's okay, I soothed. She provoked you. It's not okay. He spun around, his eyes wild. Don't you get it, Sophie? She's going to take everything. The building, my home, your home. He ran his hands through his hair, pacing back and forth. I should have just paid her off years ago. I should have sold the building. I'm a failure, just like she said. You are not a failure, I said firmly. You are a fighter. We'll fight this. How? He laughed bitterly. I have no money for lawyers. The investment money is tied up in the renovation trust. I can't touch it for legal fees. He looked at me. His expression crumbled. You should go, Sophie. She's right. I'm exploiting you, dragging you into my mess. You're not dragging me anywhere, I said. I'm choosing to be here. Why? He asked, tears glistening in his eyes. Why would you stay with a loser who's about to be homeless? Because I love you, I said, and because I have a plan. Ryan looked at me, confusion warring with despair. A plan? Yes. Vanessa is banking on you being alone, on you being broke. But you're not alone, and, well, you're still broke. But we have something she doesn't. What? The tenants. I smiled. This building isn't just bricks and mortar, Ryan. It's a community. Mrs. Higgins, Mr. Henderson, the Garcia family. They love you. You fix their sinks at midnight. You carry their groceries. You're not just a landlord. You're family. I grabbed my laptop. We're going to start a petition. A campaign. Save our home. We'll get testimonials. We'll go to the press. We'll make Vanessa look like the heartless corporate shark she is. Ryan stared at me. Hope flickered in his eyes, fragile but real. You think it will work? I know it will, I said. Because people love an underdog story. And they hate eviction notices. I started typing furiously. Ryan watched me for a moment, then walked over. He kissed the top of my head. You're amazing, he whispered. I know, I said, not looking up. Now make me some coffee. We have a war to win. For the next 3 days, we turned the apartment into a war room. I designed flyers. Ryan went door to door talking to tenants. We held a building meeting in the lobby. She wants to turn this place into luxury condos, Mrs. Higgins shouted, waving her cane. Over my dead body. She'll have to drag us out. Mr. Henderson agreed. The community rallied. They signed petitions. They made signs. They posted on social media. By Monday morning, the story had gone viral. Hashtag Save the Sterling was trending on Twitter. News vans were parked outside. When we walked into the courthouse on Tuesday, we weren't alone. 50 tenants stood behind us. They held signs. They cheered. Vanessa was there with her army of lawyers. She looked at the crowd, her face pale. This wasn't part of her plan. She expected a quiet legal slaughter, not a public relations nightmare. The judge called the session to order. Vanessa's lawyer presented their case. Negligence, insolvency, moral turpitude. Then it was Ryan's turn. He didn't have a high-priced lawyer. He represented himself. He stood up. He looked at the judge. Then he looked at the tenants in the gallery. Your Honor, he began, his voice steady. My ex-wife sees this building as an asset, a line on a spreadsheet. I see it as a home. These people, they are my family. I might not have a lot of money in the bank. I might fix pipes myself because I can't afford a plumber, but I care. I show up. He pointed to Mrs. Higgins. I replaced her windows last winter so she wouldn't be cold. He pointed to the Garcia kids. I built them a sandbox in the courtyard. He turned to me. And Sophie? She reminded me why I fight. Because this building is worth saving. Because love is worth fighting for. He placed a stack of papers on the judge's bench. Here are 500 signatures, letters from the community, proof that I am not negligent. I am dedicated. The judge read the letters. He looked at Vanessa, who was shrinking in her seat. He looked at the crowd. In light of the overwhelming evidence of tenant satisfaction, the judge ruled, banging his gavel. And the lack of concrete proof of mismanagement, the motion for emergency injunction is denied. Mr. Miller retains full ownership. The courtroom erupted. Cheers, hugs. Mrs. Higgins tried to high-five the bailiff. Vanessa stormed out, her lawyers trailing behind her like defeated puppies. Ryan turned to me. He didn't speak. He just grabbed me and kissed me right there in the middle of the courtroom. It was a kiss full of relief, victory, and promise. "We did it," he whispered against my lips. "You did it," I corrected. "Landlord of the year." We walked out of the courthouse hand in hand into the bright sunlight. The tenants surrounded us, a chaotic, happy mob. "Drinks on me," Mr. Henderson shouted. "At O'Malley's." "Cookies for everyone," Mrs. Higgins declared. Ryan laughed. It was the sound of a burden finally lifted. "Let's go home," he said to me. "To the basement," I teased. "To the penthouse," he winked. "I think we've earned a view." Peace had returned to the Sterling apartments, but it was a new kind of peace. It was vibrant, communal, and filled with the sound of construction. With Vanessa defeated and the investment secure, Ryan threw himself into the renovations. But this time he wasn't doing it alone. The roof garden was taking shape. I spent my mornings up there, designing murals for the walls while Ryan installed planter boxes. We worked side by side, covered in paint and soil, happier than two people living in a construction site had any right to be. But there was still one elephant in the room, or rather in the basement, my apartment, or what was left of it. "It's dry," Ryan announced one evening over dinner. We were eating takeout Thai food on the floor of his living room, surrounded by blueprints. "What is?" I asked, stealing a spring roll from his plate. 3B. The mold remediation is done. The new floor is in. I even installed a rain shower. "Oh," I paused mid-chew. "That's great." "So," he continued, not looking at me, "you can move back in whenever you want." I put the spring roll down. The food suddenly tasted like sawdust. "Move back." Did he want me to leave? Right? I said, my voice tight. "Of course, I should get out of your hair. I've been squatting here for weeks." "You're not squatting," Ryan said quickly. "But you need your space. Your art, your mess." "My mess?" I repeated dully. "Got it." I stood up. "I'll start packing." "Sophie, wait." He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "It's fine, Ryan, I understand. The crisis is over. The fake dating is over. Back to normal, right, tenant and landlord?" "That's not what I meant." "Isn't it?" I turned on him, tears stinging my eyes. "You fixed the apartment so you could get rid of me. Admit it." "I fixed it because you deserve a nice place to live," he shouted, standing up. "Because I wanted to give you something perfect, not because I want you to leave." "Then why are you telling me to move out?" "Because," he ran a hand through his hair, looking frustrated, "because I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to live with someone. I'm used to being alone. I'm used to my routine. And you're chaos, Sophie. Beautiful chaos, but chaos. So you're choosing routine over me." "I'm choosing sanity," he yelled. "I need to know if this, us, is real. Or if it was just because of the adrenaline, because of the fight with Vanessa. If we're not living in each other's pockets, maybe we can figure out what we actually are." "I know what we are," I whispered, "but apparently you don't." I walked into the guest room and slammed the door. I packed my bag in 10 minutes. I didn't take everything, just the essentials. I walked out. Ryan was standing by the window looking out at the city. He didn't turn around. "The key is on the counter," he said, his voice flat. "For 3B. "Thanks." I grabbed it. "I'll wire the rent tomorrow." I walked out of his apartment. The walk down one flight of stairs felt like descending into hell. I opened the door to 3B. It was beautiful. The floors were gleaming hardwood. The walls were painted a soft, warm cream. The bathroom was spa-like with the promised rain shower. But it was empty, cold, silent. I sat on the floor in the middle of the empty living room and cried. The next week was torture. I avoided Ryan. I paid my rent online. If I heard his heavy footsteps in the hallway, I waited until they were gone before leaving my apartment. I threw myself into my work. I painted murals. I designed logos. I baked muffins until my kitchen smelled like a bakery, but I had no one to share them with. Mrs. Higgins got a lot of free muffins that week. You look thin, dear, she told me one morning, accepting a basket of blueberry scones. Are you eating? I'm fine, Mrs. Higgins. And how is that handsome landlord of ours? She asked slyly. I haven't seen him whistling lately. He's busy, I said shortly. Renovations. Renovating the building or his heart, she tisked. You two are stubborn mules, both of you. She was right, but I was hurt, and Ryan. On Friday night there was a knock on my door. My heart leaped. Ryan. I opened it. It wasn't Ryan. It was a courier. Delivery for Ms. Sophie, he said, handing me a large flat envelope. Thanks. I closed the door and opened the envelope. Inside was a legal document. Landlord Ryan Miller. Tenant, Sophie Vance term, lifetime rent, $0. 00 special conditions. See Addendum A. I turned the page. Addendum A was a handwritten note. Sophie. You were right. The apartment is too quiet. The building is too quiet. My life is too quiet. I don't want sanity. I want chaos. I want glitter on my floorboards and flour on my countertops. I want you. I fixed 3B because I wanted you to have a choice. I didn't want you to stay with me because you had nowhere else to go. I wanted you to choose me. So here is the deal. You can live in 3B for free, forever, no strings attached. Or you can come upstairs, bring your mess, bring your art, bring your muffins. But if you come upstairs, there is a condition. You have to stay. Not as a tenant, but as a partner, a co-owner, a wife. The choice is yours. Ryan. I stared at the letter. My hands were shaking. Tears blurred the ink. He didn't kick me out. He set me free so I could choose to come back. He was an idiot. A wonderful, complicated, noble idiot. I grabbed the letter. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't lock my door. I ran. I ran up the stairs, taking them two at a time. I reached his door. I didn't knock. I tried the handle. Locked. Ryan! I shouted, pounding on the wood. Open up! No answer. Ryan! If you don't open this door, I'm going to pick the lock. I learned how on YouTube. The door swung open. Ryan stood there. He looked terrible. His hair was messy, he hadn't shaved in days, and he was wearing the same gray t-shirt he wore the day we fought. He looked at me. He looked at the letter in my hand. You read it, he said hoarsely. I read it, I said, stepping inside. And I have a counteroffer. Oh! He looked wary. What is it? I don't want free rent, I said, walking towards him. I want to pay. Pay with what? With this. I grabbed his shirt and pulled him down. I kissed him. It was a kiss of forgiveness, of homecoming, of absolute certainty. Ryan made a noise in his throat, a low growl of relief, and wrapped his arms around me, lifting me off the floor. He buried his face in my neck. I missed you, he whispered. God, I missed you. I missed you too, I said, clinging to him. It was so quiet downstairs. I hated it. I hated it up here, he admitted. I kept waiting to hear you singing in the shower or dropping paintbrushes. He pulled back to look at me. So, he asked, his eyes searching mine. Which option did you choose, 3B or the penthouse? Penthouse. I smiled. Definitely the penthouse. The water pressure is better. Ryan laughed. He carried me to the couch and sat down, keeping me in his lap. And the condition? He asked, suddenly serious. The wife part. We'll have to negotiate the terms, I teased. I'm listening. I want closet space, 50%. Done. I want to paint the guest room yellow. Done. And I poked his chest. You have to do the dishes, always. Ryan groaned. Always. Always. I cook you clean. That's the rule. He sighed, pretending to be reluctant. Fine, but I get to pick the movies on movie night. Deal. He kissed me again, slow and deep. "Does this mean you're proposing to me?" I asked against his lips. "I think I did that in the letter," he said. "That wasn't a proposal. That was a contract amendment. I'm a landlord, Sophie. Contracts are my love language." I rolled my eyes. "Well, I need a verbal confirmation. For the records." Ryan shifted. He moved me off his lap and knelt on the rug in front of me. He took my hand. "Sophie Vance." He said, his voice steady and full of love. "Will you make my life messy? Will you ruin my organization? Will you marry me?" "Yes," I whispered, tears spilling over. "Yes, Ryan Miller, I will." He didn't have a ring. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a metal washer from his tool belt. "I didn't have time to go to the store," he apologized. "I was too busy pining." "It's perfect," I said, letting him slide it onto my finger. It was cold and industrial and absolutely him. "I love you," he said. "I love you too." We sat on the floor of our apartment in the building we saved, planning our future. "We should have the wedding on the roof," I suggested. "In the garden." "Mrs. Higgins can be the flower girl," Ryan added, "and Mr. Henderson can officiate." "It's going to be a disaster," Ryan smiled. "The best kind," I agreed. Outside, the city lights twinkled. Inside, the apartment was warm and full of life. The landlord had found his tenant for life. And the rent? It was paid in full, with love.